Hey guys, welcome to the Immersive Playground with XTG, where we discuss experiential tech, what is here, what is coming, and how to integrate it with global partners and clients. I'm your host, Brandon Brunhammer, and my co-host,
Garrett Keratin.
Welcome, and let's get into it. Alrighty, thank you for joining us today on the Immersive Playground. Welcome. We have a guest in the studio today. We've got Anthony McIntyre from Disguise. And we're going to talk a little bit about augmented virtual reality. We're going to go down that whole rabbit hole of fun-filled facts and things that we're going to be looking at. So, Anthony, kind of tell us a little bit about Disguise, who you are, what your background is, and just kind of where you guys play.
Yep. A little bit of background about myself. I started in live events, working for Feld Entertainment, working for the circus. Of all places, pretty fun, just here in Palmetto, Florida. Moved over to Disguise back in 2017. We were doing a lot more of the live production, live events, concert touring back then. Really, Disguise is an all-in-one platform, software and hardware with integrations. We're really a software-first company when it comes to being able to really visualize a production, LED projection, using a lot of various different tools, integrating DMX workflows, camera tracking, object tracking, really being able to just reapply all these kind of tool sets to different kind of applications, like experiential, live events, theater, and really, what's actually really cool and exciting is that well before the pandemic, we were actually kind of experimenting with XR, extended reality. I know that word and phrase has been used and thrown around a lot, but it has a very specific meaning to Disguise. We've kind of coined it as extended reality, where we're using mixed reality in the sense that we're using our background in live events to utilize physical displays or projectors in a mixed reality setting, and then augmenting external overlays, whether using augmented reality with set extension, which is a very unique technology from Disguise, to really encapsulate an outgoing composite feed to bring a broadcast to life.
I've heard it. Some people have referred to that in some way like a green screen substitution,
Yes.
substituting for green screen. So like you guys, I think it's really incredible. You guys basically started as a software kind of a previs to help like a lot of artists and some high profile names to kind of visualize what the production they wanted to do. And then you guys really took them from like, the concept to execution with all of your products now too. So you mentioned that pre-COVID, you were exploring the XR in live production and trend. So what, if anything, or some pivots you've made or things, or even just some accomplishments you've made since the pandemic has happened that may have been you guys had to kind of sort through during the pandemic?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, as you know, Disguise is pretty much was a live events first company. So, pandemic happened, 85% of our business vanished in a blink of an eye, pretty much.
You got to get creative quick.
And luckily, the owner of Disguise is he's a pretty heavy player with Visionary. And he saw that where 5 years would lead us, and being able to kind of harness like the virtual environment. So what he tackled was being able to really disrupt how film and TV was being produced. And Mandalorian was obviously coming out to be a thing. I didn't want to say it, but
but that's a huge application, and it's really kind of that introduction to what that.
And a ton of people are familiar with it, so it's a great example to use. But you guys can do that,
right? So utilizing our tools to our best abilities, translate, like we're really efficient and really solid at large displays. And The Mandalorian was a huge, large display. And if you don't have the budget, $30 million like Disney had, then we're actually coining the democratization of virtual production, or XR.
So now, are you guys speccing when we come into projects like this and using that digital platform for backgrounds and being able to replace the essentially the environment, cutting cost for budgets for being on set filming and stuff like that. Is there specific requirements that you're seeing coming in from individuals on what the LED spec looks like, what the requirements are there? Are they using a lot of curved direct view LED applications? What are you guys seeing in those trends from the broadcast studio production application?
Yeah. So it really depends on the final application.
Mhm.
So, we have two terminologies, XR, which is a
Yeah.
completely different workflow from virtual production.
Mhm.
Virtual production is probably using more of real foreground elements,
Mhm.
um, have different configurations of LED pockets or the configurations like your curved displays, maybe
Right.
even using a ceiling to
Mhm.
get more of the natural lighting and reflection that you would feel like when you're shooting outside. XR is utilizing an LED floor and set extension, AR elements along with that, and the final composite feed going out to whatever your stream is going to be.
Mhm.
So those two workflows are very different from each other, and how it's actually applied, whether it's distant learning, corporate events.
Now, do you see a future in like esports applications where you have augmented reality boards that are being able to be displayed and broadcast and streaming those capabilities? Do you see a play for that mixed reality or even specifically augmented reality in those
Yeah,
applications?
absolutely. So we already have a case study. 2018, HBO Man actually did an esports where
Okay.
they actually exactly how you were presenting it is that they had two commentators on an LED stage and being able to watch gameplay happen live and make calls and actually get directly into the map and show you angles and strategy that the players are using, which is really cool.
Yeah, that in itself right there would be one of the coolest features. I know a couple of game developers, they just did their release as they explained the game literally in a digital production, walking through the gameplay and the boards, which takes it to a whole new level from a perspective of actually living the game. A lot of things that we're noticing is people don't want to wear VR headsets, but they still want to be involved in the environment. They still want to have that feeling. Where are you starting to see some of this from a business perspective, from an enterprise application? Are you starting to see it in lobbies? Are you starting to see different kinds of capabilities with those mixed realities in actual the buildings where people are working in this current point?
So I would say there's various applications. So you said lobby installations. Anywhere that video can tell a story is precisely where Disguise is going to thrive.
Yeah.
Um, and then utilizing different kind of workflows like Unreal, Unity, those
Yeah.
kind of like very high power photorealistic content, bringing that all together. So lobbies is one good application, but also utilizing XR for, let's say, an entry point to the metaverse.
Yep.
Um, all of those tools are being developed currently, and
So now, how are you seeing businesses look at the metaverse from a perspective of wanting to utilize it and going into that realm? I wasn't going to talk about metaverse, but I figured
You
we
brought-
might as well talk about it because it definitely correlates here. How are you starting to see businesses realize that there's an actual drive to want to be in the metaverse and start to utilize that product?
it's being able to engage and approach with their viewers or even
Mhm.
with their coworkers. Being able to do a town hall, it's really an entry point into allowing your viewers being like an avatar,
Yeah.
and to be able to purchase things on Roblox or Fortnite,
Mhm.
or even as simple as watching a concert like Travis Scott from when he did that concert in on Fortnite. So
Yeah, there's I believe it's Wave XR or Wave VR. They're doing a huge concert series. I remember Lindsey Sterling was on there. There's a couple of other big names that they did. It was really heavy during the pandemic because during the heavy parts of the pandemic when everybody was still shut down, they were doing broadcast from the houses, creating avatars and then putting them into a mixed reality, which was insane. Those are some really neat applications that we're starting to see. Obviously, some conversations that we've been talking about is the immersive rooms and the difference in how that's changing from a standard boardroom and stuff like that. When it comes to themed entertainment, also looking at just some of the different kinds of applications that we're starting to see, a lot more projection mapping or a lot more direct view LED that's using those projection mapping style applications because they're creating the direct view LED as the environment now, really being able to change the canvas. Are you guys noticing that the request to want to use the direct view LED but also integrate other applications from, like a mixed reality game board or something like that, is that something that you guys are starting to see in themed entertainment or in just general, at least?
I wish I actually can recite what install that I keep seeing on LinkedIn and social media, that it's like a curved LED install. I want to say it's probably like either in Tokyo or
Okay.
somewhere. With usually that direct LED that is rendered from one perspective.
Are you talking about the one with that has the Final Fantasy characters, the cat that like lays out of it too, or are you talking about something different?
I've seen like a subway car like go through the view and then completely the other side.
So you're talking about like some of that 3D,
Yeah.
like the side of buildings and how they wrap around. Yeah. So there's a couple of installs in Tokyo. There's a couple in Beijing. I think that the first iteration of that's going to happen in New York. Obviously, it should happen in New York.
Should already happen, right?
But that 3D content is really kind of pertinent and being developed in either Unity or Unreal. But taking those processings and being able to deliver one of those, it really does change the whole perspective of how you visualize content. I think that there's a really cool application that we can start to see starting to trend when it comes to the idea of truly being immersed in product and being immersed in the technology without having to use wearables.
Yep.
I think that I'm not saying wearables are dead. I'm not saying that at all, but I feel like there's so much more technology out there that is user-friendly from a multi-person perspective.
And like we've said in the past, when you have the wearables, I mean, when people are trying to get together to do things, they're often dressed up. They've cleaned up for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
They've done their hair up, or some of us have cut it all off, but they don't want to put the wearable on to mess up whatever that look is. And also especially with the pandemic we just went through, people don't want to be handing things back and forth. It adds more steps to it. But if we can do something that's immersive, you can do something that's, augmented or XR as well, you eliminate that step for everybody, and then they can all just step right into whatever it is that the content is.
So going back into a couple of other different topics, when we talk about broadcast specifically and augmented reality overlays, Museum of the Future was just released and just opened. So they had, with their big presentation, they had a lot of augmented reality on the broadcast side, showing, whether it was DNA molecules that were spinning, or they had a crazy looking fire eye that was in the center of the actual building itself. And just looking at some of those different capabilities and those different perspectives, also from an augmented reality perspective, in broadcast, is that something that you guys are starting to see a trend more and becoming more of a want?
Definitely. So, and it starts with the explosion of XR and the sustainability of our workflows and our toolkits that we're providing, and allowing people to expand upon not just doing it in fixed installations for distant learning or corporate, but also like there's a real need for broadcast, and those broadcasters that want to kind of have a little bit more of like a revolutionary period where like it's not just like brick and mortar and normal
Right.
sets or just with basic LED, but more enriched environments that you're building out an environment in either Unreal or Unity. The cost of building a set and being able to reuse that on a daily basis from a long-term perspective, being able to change scenery on the drop of a hat through Unreal or Unity is, attractable. So, and that use case and the purpose case can actually be reused time and time again.
For sure.
Now you've been saying, distance learning and those kinds of things. Where are you guys? What trends are you seeing in distance learning from being able to utilize your product, and just what direction do you see a lot of that going from the technology perspective?
I would have to use like some use cases. So,
Okay.
The Ross Business School at
Okay.
University of Michigan. They have 2 stages, and one is really just the professor is kind of like on a Zoom call, pretty much, but in a 3D environment on a stage, and really giving a different approach to education. This is well before the pandemic happened, but also SCAD.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's more like 2 different use cases.
Right.
And like we said before, between virtual production and XR, SCAD's using more of the virtual production for cinematic. They are actually learning specific workflows from Disguise.
Okay.
That they can take their experiences from SCAD, what they've learned, and apply it then into the actual workforce, which is gonna in long term is going to help not just Disguise but also the community as a whole.
Sure. Very cool. Now, when we're looking at, prime example, the Michigan State example, or is it Michigan State or University of Michigan? University of Michigan. Okay. So when you're looking at that example of University of Michigan, you've got this professor in an environment, are they also utilizing it for, say if someone wanted to come in, use the capabilities and record, a virtual field trip, say they wanted to go to the Sahara Desert or something like that, and be funny and talk in some crazy accent and walk them through, the Serengeti or the Sahara Desert or wherever they wanted to be. Is that a feature that you're starting to see any trends in from that perspective as well?
Yeah. So I hope I'm allowed to talk about this, but yes, from the actual same university, they actually have they're doing some experiments
Cool.
that they're working with a company called White Light
Okay.
in the UK.
Yep.
And being able to provide like unique teaching. So like for instance, what I saw was construction,
Okay.
and to being able to like actually place like joists and
Right.
like the actual components of what it takes to build out structures. It takes a lot to actually bring students to a site like that
Yeah.
to experience it. But they're doing that now. They're bringing students into an environment where
That's awesome.
the instructor is actually being able to point out the joists and the entire components of a structure, like just from a stage.
Now, are you seeing like the ability to do it for like a 1-to-1 scale size reference? So if you've got a 4-inch pipe on the wall, it's referencing as a 4-inch pipe.
Absolutely.
And that's crazy. So one of the things that I would ask at that point, we're seeing a lot of ideas being thrown around. Obviously, we get to play in the immersive room quite a bit, but we're looking at the ideas of if someone wanted to do a fly through at Navisworks, and being able to go through it and have a solid file, whether it's a BIM model or something like that. Is that something that you're starting to see individuals ask about, where they're wanting to be able to go through their concepts and be able to not only show it from a marketing perspective, but also show it from a full capability of, just collaborative communication and collaborative conversation amongst different colleagues?
Have like very data-driven analysis that's then augmented it for the viewers.
Yep.
The presenter can actually then reference that information and have a full-blown topic discussion on an XR stage, being able to then witness, certain aspects where you can actually bring in, let's say like an engine, and actually walk through like the different components of an engine. And there are some of our clients that are actually wanting to use these skills more often.
So taking like a SolidWorks file, being able to take them apart, put them back together.
It's amazing how fast we really pivoted from. I mean, just not even 5 or 6 years ago, there's plenty of advertisement for people wearing glasses and like exploding car parts or exploding human anatomy inside of a health class. And now we've just in that short amount of time, it's like, well, we can do that, or we can do it without anything on your face. We can just literally do it in the room,
Right.
and you guys can see it.
And there always also needs to be like some sort of medium, like for the people that are viewing it at home, obviously.
Mhm.
So like we
Sure.
can composite 3D objects within an environment very easily through our technology, which then encapsulates and allows the viewers at home to be more excited and enriched in this environment.
So are you starting to see a lot more drive and want in museum applications? Like, where are you seeing the most drive and want for necessarily those mixed reality or extended reality applications?
Yeah, so everything that I mentioned before, I think as things start to open up, we'll see
Mhm.
more of like experiential centers starting using these kind of applications, and hopefully dropping out like the whole medium part where you
Right.
need to actually have like something on your face
Mhm.
or a phone
Mhm.
to be able to experience like different augmented experiences.
Right.
I think once things start to open up, like you guys are straightforward on
Right.
that, and
Yeah.
what you guys are working on is really cool.
So I think that as we start to kind of close up a little bit and kind of come to an end, one of the things I would ask is, are you seeing one more real quick topic? Are you seeing like a hybrid solution where maybe you're using transparent OLED with projection on the floor, but also potentially a direct view LED on the backside? I know we're getting a little crazy here now at this point, being able to show transparent glasses and displays and those kinds of things, but I envision a lot of want, as everybody always talks about, like Pepper's Ghost, and they talk about holograms, and they talk about how they still want to see those kinds of products. You could do that with 3D content in transparent OLEDs, but obviously they're a smaller display, but utilizing that as a hybrid solution from a transparent display, direct view backdrop with a projection floor. So that way it kind of it takes the entire idea of like Van Gogh, but takes it to a whole new level.
I think it really just depends on the artist and how they're going to be designing it. Obviously, like we'll be able to display anything on anything.
Right.
It's really just playing back and mapping out to a display. So whatever that display is, I think it's up to the artist to kind of like envision what display or medium that they're going to use. I think that's always how it's been.
Were you guys involved in a Luminarium?
Yes.
Yeah. So, massive, massive project. This is a billion pixels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just incredible. Now, when you're looking at a place like the Luminarium, do you see a lot more iterations of that being replicated across? Because they're using that platform for like everything. They're using it for, events. They're using it for digital production. They're using it for, social happy hours, everything.
I haven't got to experience it on site before, but my team was in like full hand in hand with Luminarium when they were rolling this idea out, and
Mhm.
it started as pre-rendered content with very uncompressed, very
Yeah.
lossless content,
Mhm.
and then it very quickly formed into an Unreal Engine
Yeah.
environment. So yes, they have definitely have plans to expand. I can't share where yet.
Sure.
But you mentioned Van Gogh.
Yeah.
So different iterations, and again, like how those immersive theaters are being applied. I think it's really cool. How they can then incorporate like afterlife and some bar themes like that. So, what's some other applications that art I forget what the application is in New York City, but I mean, just like that, like they're using different kind of workflows and
Yeah.
just like full scale projection mapping.
Yeah, some other things that we've definitely noticed. Obviously, esports is huge in visualization. That's a driving force in a lot of different ways to visualize gameplay. Another thing that we've noticed is that I think one's called the Petite Chef. It's a restaurant in New York, and it has a little guy that pops out on your table, and he runs around, and you kind of go through this map, and it's interactive on your plate, and you go through it and you scroll through it, and if you select something and that's the product or the entree that you want, it automatically populates on your plate in digital form. That's pretty cool to me as well. They come out with a little mobile projector and they sit it on your table. It's just different ways that we're using visualization from a just a completely customized perspective. And I think that is only going to continue to grow. But yeah, no, I appreciate the conversation. Is there any kind of like last thoughts or any way that people can get a hold of you or anything like that? Obviously, we'll put a link down below for sure.
Yeah, so disguise.one, O-N-E at the end. There's a lot of insights on our website. You can check out case studies, our partners. We're a global company. We're pretty excited to be involved with any production that is advancing storytelling.
Very nice. Same name for any of your social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook too?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you guys enjoyed the conversation, please let us know. Give us some feedback. Maybe we can have Anthony on again to talk about some more stuff.
Yeah, and let us know if there's any questions. Is something, a specific topic that we didn't hit on. Feel free to reach out, post a comment down below on any specific topics. Go ahead and like that button, Appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.